Today, people have so much chaos streaming into their minds, with the saturation of negativity in the headlines. From the war in Iran, to attacks on Jews and Christians and the media and influencers trying to divide the right, it can be very overwhelming. The harsh reality is that social media and the news can work as an energy vampire. So, what do we do? Well, as we've all heard in one form or another that the solution to darkness is light, but what does that mean exactly? So in this video, I'm going to try to explain that. And in doing so, we are going to talk about Tucker Carlson's demonic experience that he had while sleeping. And to officially get this started, I'm going to start by telling you guys a quick story. I once called a rabbi for some advice on combating negativity. The rabbi told me the answer was very simple. He then instructed me to turn off all the lights in my room. Once the room was pitch black, he said the next step was for me to swing at the darkness. Confused by his instructions, I was quiet for a moment, and then I said, "But Rabbi, I'd just be swinging at air and exhaust myself." And that's when the rabbi laughed a little and said, "Exactly! We don't fight the darkness because it's pointless. So instead, go flip your light switch on and transform it." The rabbi had just taught me a profound lesson. One flip of the switch can expel a lot of darkness. In other words, simple action and the clarity of mind to see what needs to be done is what transforms our reality. It is what transforms darkness into light. This clarity of mind isn't so easily achieved all the time, however, because we live in a world where negativity, hatred, and emotional imbalance is a person's proverbial room of darkness. This dark place is intangible, and the light switch isn't so easily found sometimes. So today we are going to hopefully pull back the curtain and talk about what can't be so easily seen. We are going to start by exposing the largest source of negativity, and God willing, this will help us navigate our way to that proverbial light switch. The most addictive, sensational negativity, keeping the lights off, comes in the form of politics. On the one hand, we need to remain informed about what's going on in the world, and on the other hand, we don't currently live in a reality where the facts alone are presented. Instead, we are being fed a mix of facts, deception, and opinions coming from a very small group of influencers in our world. Let's take the war in Iran, for example. Regardless of what side you're on regarding the support for the war in Iran, one thing is clear. There is a physical battle going on, and separately, an emotional, intellectual, and psychological one that can't be seen. In our previous video, we answered Tucker Carlson's questions about Amalek and explained a bit how Amalek was the epitome of irrational hatred. And this was crucial to expose before I discuss Tucker Carlson's demonic experience, because hatred and darkness are indeed related. Hate and demonic experiences are related. So to elucidate this a bit more, I'm going to play a clip of Tucker talking about a hate he was sorting through just before he was attacked in his sleep.
And I'm not making it up.
But what happened?
I had this crazy experience where I was in the truck with someone coming back from quail hunting, and I had all of a sudden we were talking about someone I despise, and all of a sudden I had this crazy empathy for the person, like really intense empathy, like I could understand why this person was doing these horrible things. And I said to the person in the truck, this is a family dispute, right? So I said to the person, maybe my brother, and I said, "I think I know what's happening here. This person feels this way, that way, this way." And my brother goes, "How did you know that?" I said, "I don't know. It just like," and my brother goes, "I think like God is like speaking through you or something." And I felt total, true empathy for this person I truly hate. It was like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I have no idea where it came from. My brother's like, "I think that's from God. Like, there's no way you could." I was like, "Well, that's kind of wild." So then I get home. We have this huge dinner party, which we always have dinner parties, and I forget about it. And I'm telling you this because they're twinned. The one leads to the other. I had this profound experience with God, like profound and beautiful and unexpected.
The insight that Tucker has here is very unique because he's not always wrong. He was correct. That deep empathy he was feeling, that was actually heaven trying to help him out before these experiences happened. But if you notice, he calls his empathy an experience with God, hate being the opposite. And forgive the crazy noises that you may hear in the background during this video. There is a wild windstorm going on outside right now. But this isn't the first time he mentions destructive thinking or behavior. Before we go into the second time, let's hear his actual demonic experience.
And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs. All 5 of them wake up like that. Like we have no home invaders in my house. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe. So I get up, I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying. I could feel myself starting to gray out. And then I started walking in the backyard, and then it slowly came back. Like my throat kind of opened up a little bit. I was like really weirded out. I walk back in, and my wife wakes up. She goes, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I can't breathe. I feel better now. And all of a sudden, I had this horrible pain underneath my arms, like on the side of my chest. Like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So and by the way, no one woke up. So I show my wife, and she's like, oh my gosh. And then I have this like crazy intense desire to read the Bible. So I read the Bible and I pass out in like 2 minutes, and I wake up and the next morning I thought, man, did I have a wild dream?
Did you hear how he said he immediately had this desire to read the Bible? So he has the empathy, and then he has the desire to read the Bible. Well, why is that? Clearly, heaven was trying to steer him in the correct direction. The opposite of hate is empathy and caring. It's compassion. But let's talk about this thing sitting on his chest. Now, what most people call a demon is really better known as a destroying angel. What most people don't understand is that we create these destroying angels. Now, some people call these destroying angels Mazikeen, but the most important thing to acknowledge here is that we create them by putting out negativity and then attracting negativity to ourselves. There's healthy and unhealthy anger. The type of normal anger is if you stub your toe and shout. The unhealthy anger is when you have a hate for somebody so deep that it takes God to give you an experience where you could feel empathy for them, like Tucker had to have. And while the type of hate that Tucker is describing is an imbalance, let's listen to the other destructive behavior he admits to engaging in.
But also the disciples were casting out demons that were possessing people and causing them to hurt themselves. And as someone who had, a drug and alcohol problem, like I know kind of that weird, I've seen it a lot in others also, that weird desire to harm yourself.
And once again, he gets it almost correct. He is right in the fact that they are hurting themselves, but then he goes on to imply that it's some sort of outside force.
And so much of what we experience is from outside of ourselves. We are acted upon constantly by the spiritual realm. And Lee Strobel just affirmed what I was beginning to realize, which is we are the subject of massive supernatural influence all the time. And every other civilization from the beginning of time has acknowledged this and written about it and left artifacts that point to.
The problem is that those cultures he is talking about is, well, pagan. They don't understand the oneness of Hashem, so they attribute these negative experiences to demons, and they don't seem to really acknowledge the fact that God created these things as cause and effect, as part of a natural order in His creation. But what about actual demons? Some of you might be saying that you know that Judaism has demonology. And while that's true, I would highly recommend anybody talk to a rabbi if they want to understand actual demonology further. But what I will say is this: there is a reason that exorcisms and demons are usually associated with Christianity and Catholicism. You don't hear people say, hey, I think my friend's possessed by a demon, so let me find a rabbi. This is because Judaism doesn't shift the focus to something outside of ourself or something outside of God. And neither did the New Testament, but in today's day, it's turned into something entirely different. For example, in what Christians will call the Old Testament, there are a lot of commands. And I think we could all agree, even Christians, that the 10 commandments came from God alone, and also the following biblical commands after that. Now, while Christianity and Judaism might disagree on whether those commandments are still relevant, we all acknowledge that those commandments are preceded by "Thus saith the Lord." With that said, nowhere do you see God himself instruct the leaders to evaluate if somebody is possessed by a demon or not, or if the devil made them do it before they could be charged as guilty or innocent. And this is because an outside force can't make you do something that you aren't open to. Additionally, in the New Testament, you never see their Jesus ever accuse anybody of failing to evaluate people for demonic possession. Instead, in Matthew 1, you see Jesus addressing quote-unquote unclean spirits, and he identifies it based on the amount of hatred somebody is spewing at him. But you don't ever see Jesus saying, wait, you can't charge this person as guilty until you evaluate them for a demon. Instead, you could see Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 telling people to avoid the type of hatred that Tucker has and the kind of venomous hatred that Candace Owens is spewing. You know Matthew 5, right? It talks about turning the other cheek, the very thing Erica Kirk is doing.
If I had any amount of anger in my heart and spirit, the Lord would not be able to use me.
And the very thing, sadly, Tucker trivializes and doesn't realize is his real solution. Just listen.
Sunday morning, like, why am I, and we wear ties to church, like, why am I doing this? There's nothing in here that's like, be nice to your neighbor, okay. It's like, be nice to your neighbor, okay. Sunday morning, like, why am I, and we wear ties to church, like, why am I doing this? There's nothing in here that's like, be nice to your neighbor, okay. Like, if it's not supernatural, then what's the point? And when I read the Bible, it's like, it is about the supernatural.
Yeah,
like, that's the whole story.
It's true.
It's like God intervenes supernaturally, bigger than, above nature, and that's why it's different from every other book. And the New Testament especially is filled with Jesus casting out demons. I literally didn't know that. I knew there was the crazy guy in the cemetery who broke his chains, but I didn't really realize that not only was Jesus, but also the disciples were casting out demons that were possessing people and causing them to hurt themselves. And as someone who
Tucker completely missed the mark. He begins by trivializing the actual solution and goes straight into it being the supernatural. He fails to see entirely that both Judaism and Christianity emphasize not hating your fellow. And while he may have overcome certain addictions, which I hope every human being does, the question is if he will realize it's about emotional regulation. It's about compassion, kindness, or what we call in Hebrew, hesed. In conclusion, it's our actions that make a difference. It's following God's instructions that makes a difference. It's the random acts of kindness. It's giving charity. It's thinking favorably of others. And it's the refusal to engage in baseless hate. That's how we flip on the light switch. That's how we transform the darkness. And when everybody can flip on their light switch, that's how negative encounters like the one Tucker Carlson had will stop.